everybody. Thank you so much for joining this podcast today. I, again, am so excited. I have this incredible guest, and of course, I want to talk about her before I officially introduce her. She has a ministry called Saving Moses, and she's going to share everything there is about saving Moses with us. You don't want to miss this. You want to share this with absolutely everybody you can because it's just too good. And so Saving Moses is led by Sarah Bowling. And so welcome to the show, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jessa. It's super fun. Just a great honor to get to hang out and connect. Appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, that's incredible, Sarah. I'm excited as well. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about you, how you came to know the Lord, that sort of thing?
I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor. Marilyn Hickey's my mother, and so exposed to Christianity from the onset, literally. And so yeah, I grew up in a Christian home and didn't never had one of those like I walked away from God. I wasn't a rebellious type person. I was very tended to be really sensitive and very easy, malleable, compliant, but also really loved the Bible growing up. I think I heard great Bible stories and being around church, sleeping under pews and stuff. I always loved the Bible. And so I always had a really keen passion for relationship with God. I was like, can't do this whole God thing based on guilt or the shoulds and the oughts. I can't do that. It's not really sustainable. But I felt like God, I kind of came to the conclusion if I love God and if I can do a love relationship, then that's very sustainable. So I was always keen from little tiny, like 5 years old, and had various encounters with God and over the course of my growing up, teens, and all that. And then in my early 20s, I went to Germany. I studied my undergrad was in German, and I went to Germany to study and kind of had a crisis of faith where I thought, I don't want to just do Christianity because I'm born in America. If I was born in India, I'd probably be a Hindu. If I was born in Saudi Arabia, I'd be a Muslim. Is that what we're doing here, or what do I believe? Not just because of what was passed down to me, but make my own choices. So I explored different faiths and read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis and found that to be incredibly, it very much aligned with my thinking. And so I walked into Christianity, kind of committing my life to Jesus as an adult, not just from my upbringing. So that's a little bit of my background. Was married for a little while. I have three kids that are all young adults now. I started Saving Moses about 15 years ago, and it kind of came out of going to Ethiopia on like an outreach missions trip, and there were abandoned newborns that were in the orphanage where we were staying. And I kind of stumbled across them. My neighbor said, "Hey, did you see the newborns?" I'm like, "No." And I found out that these newborns had been abandoned on a field. And the police rang this orphanage and said, "Hey, can you take these newborns?" And the orphanage said, "Sorry, it's our policy. We don't take babies." And the police said to the orphanage, "If you don't take them, we have to put them back on the field because we don't have any other option." And so the orphanage was like, "Well, okay, bring them. We'll try to make it work." And so I remember holding them in my hands or my arms. They're twins, Sarah and Ruth. That's their names. And I was like, "Who? What? You're an orphanage and you don't take babies?" I just was like, "This doesn't compute." And so I asked the director, and the director said, "Well, if you think about it, we have finite resources, and we can, take care of 20 10-year-olds for the same amount of money that we could look after, three babies for a month." So he said, these are the decisions we are making. And so I started looking around, and that was kind of the beginning of Saving Moses. Took a couple years to kind of hone the vision for us. But we are in essence a global humanitarian organization. We look after the urgent survival needs of babies and toddlers 0 to 5. So we do that in places like Afghanistan, Congo, there's a huge outbreak of Ebola right exactly where we work in Congo right now. We work in Angola, we work in India, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and then sometimes we do pop-ups, uh, temporary campaigns. So, yeah, and urgent survival needs, we do malnutrition. So we aim at severe acute malnutrition. We do that in a couple countries. We do something called night care. So we look after babies and toddlers of sex workers while they work. In America, we have daycare. It's the same idea, but night care. We
Right.
can get into that because people always have questions. They're like, oh, because they kind of freak out when you hear about sex workers and, And
Yeah.
then the other thing we do is birth aid. So we help moms who are pregnant give safe and healthy births, and in places where they don't have resources. So, like in Congo right now, the DRC, we have an antenatal ward, literally like almost in the heart of where this Ebola outbreak is. And we work in spaces like that to help moms give safe births. So whether it's through birth kits or birth training, we work in Afghanistan where they've had a complete, I can't say an utter failure, but because of some of the government changes that have happened there. I mean, women are not allowed to get educated. Women are not allowed to be doctors and nurses and that. And then in addition, they don't let men touch women. So a male doctor can't provide care for a pregnant woman unless there's like some help around. So, like, if you think about being pregnant in Afghanistan, it's a very scary prospect. So whether you're the mother or the newborn, and they have lots of strange ideas in terms of birth. So like they would take the umbilical cord and rub it in the dirt, and so that obviously introduces like infection into the
Yeah.
systems of the mom and the baby. And so you're like, why do they? So again, these are the places where we work. I like to go where nobody else goes. That's like I love that. That just lights my fire.
Yeah. So you say,
Most urgent, least available.
there we go.
Yep. Yep. Most urgent. So, I mean, I really look for it. And like, when there was all the bombing happening in Gaza, I really wanted to get into Gaza because babies and toddlers there, I mean, dying routinely. But at the same time, I'm not going to let aid, my resources, my participation be controlled or manipulated by governments and politics. So I'm really careful. I want to make sure that where there's most urgent and where it's least available, that's where I want to work. So again, like I love working in, Afghanistan. People have pulled out of Afghanistan, understandably, but I want to stay in there, and places that people don't go. Like I go to brothels, developing world brothels, and people are like, oh my gosh, why would you do that? I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't. I just, I think it's a really cool opportunity to give love. And if you struggle with loving a baby and a toddler, then that's a different, you need to kind of think about that a little second. And I think some people get a little cranky with me because they're like, well, their mom shouldn't be in the industry. And I'm like, I don't disagree, but these babies and toddlers never signed up for it. I
Yeah.
mean, they're like born into this, and what are they going to do? So and there's a lot of organizations that help the moms, the sex workers, and there's not one organization that helps the babies and toddlers, just us. And yet, that's part of this industry. So yeah, I love what we do.
I
It's
love what
really
you
cool.
guys do. It's really
Yeah.
absolutely stunning, the work that you guys do. And it's so incredible, the research that you've done going into each nation, and you're looking at all of the statistics so you know who you're supposed to go reach. And
Yep.
I just can't help but think over all these years that you've been doing that about all the Moses that you've been
Right.
saving, and God is going to raise up these futures for these people and save generations, or who knows what the calling of the lives of God's calling on these lives are, but at least you're going in and you're saving their destinies.
Yep. And if you think about Moses and the Nile River, you read Exodus chapters 1 and 2. I mean, his life is, and I wrote a book, Hanging by a Thread. I mean, he's about ready to be eaten by a crocodile. And Moses, or Pharaoh's daughter, reaches in and saves him. And, she doesn't know who she's saving, just some random little baby who's crying. She has compassion. But yet, this is the same guy that wrote the first 5 books of the Old Testament. I mean, it's Mount Sinai, 10 plagues. I mean, start working your head around it. And when he's 3 months old, he's almost dead. And so that's the whole thing, is like, you have no idea. And again, compassion, start from compassion, move from there. But if we don't have compassion, then that's a different conversation. My main thing is, let's just give genuine love.
Yeah.
And these babies and toddlers, genuine love is the ground zero. I mean, they've got to survive. I mean, I don't know how many babies I've held, toddlers I've held, that have been emaciated from severe acute malnutrition. And the people are like, well, you need to tell them about Jesus. I'm like, they can't understand anything about Jesus if they can't even, they have no strength to cry.
Yeah.
And I remember I read, I think it's in Psalms 8, and it says the babies cry out in strength. Um, and when I was first starting Saving Moses, I was studying biblical Hebrew, and I had told my professor I'm going on a missions trip to Angola. And he said, "What are you doing?" So I told him about, we're going to help babies and toddlers, severe acute malnutrition. And there was a baby there. Her name is Angelina, actually she's a toddler. And long story short, uh, we donated blood to help save her, and she didn't make it. Um, and it still bothers me to this day, because I just think, ugh. But she had no strength whatsoever. And when you go into these severe acute malnutrition wards and areas, you'd think you'd hear lots of babies crying because they're in pain, they're suffering, and all this. But that's not what happens. When they get to that place of severe acute malnutrition, they don't have any strength. They don't have any strength to cry out. And so I remember I came back from that trip, and I'm sitting in class, we're translating Psalms 8, and the professor, maybe it's 18, it's one of those. Professor says to me, "I bet you heard a lot of screaming, babies crying out." I'm like, and I had to excuse myself, because I was like, I didn't, because they had no strength. They were so severely malnourished that there was no strength to cry out. Um, and so when I say most urgent, that's what I mean. Most urgent. I mean, these are babies that aren't going to make it, or don't have a future. They don't, I mean, their life you know, is bad if they survive. And then if you think on malnutrition, if you layer in um, stunting, so that's a huge issue,
We talk about
because if you
stunting.
don't get, yeah, stunting. So what happens is, stunting happens when there's like chronic acute malnutrition. And so the body, like a baby's body that doesn't get, good, healthy nutrition, and it's sustained, that deficiency is sustained, then their body doesn't develop at normal milestones. So this is a great example. A couple years ago, I was in Angola, and most of the time when I go in a malnutrition ward, those babies freak out, because they don't really see large white women walking around frequently, and they think I'm a ghost, or they're scared of me, and so it's everything they can do to crawl out of their skin and stay in their they hide. They're just like freaked out. And this one little girl, her name is Maria. She's probably about 18 months, 2 years old. And she didn't have that reaction at all. I mean, she was just like curious. And she's one of the only babies and toddlers that hasn't freaked out. And it was noteworthy to me. And so I asked, I'm like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And they said, "Well, she has had severe chronic acute malnutrition consistently, such that she hasn't reached these milestones." And some of those, when that stunting happens, whether it's small body or mental development, if you don't get proper nutrition at these stages, then your mental faculties don't develop, your body doesn't develop. So these are milestones that it's like you could have a permanent result from this chronic malnutrition. So again, it's like, yeah, let's think about babies and toddlers surviving where the need is most urgent and the care is least available.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. I'm just wondering if we can go back to the name Saving Moses and how you had that name, like how God put that in your heart for the name.
Yeah, honestly, I was in my morning quiet prayer time, God time. Um, and it wasn't something that I like dreamed up. We didn't sit around a conference table and like, ooh, what sticks to the wall and brainstorm. We didn't do any of that. It was just I just remember sitting in my chair, my God chair, and having my Bible time in the morning, and I just felt like God gave me the name Saving Moses. And at first I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then it takes me a while to kind of process things. And as it marinated, I was like, wow, wow, that is so powerful. And I don't take any like that's just a God-given name. I didn't come up with that. That's for sure.
So I remember watching one of your videos and you were describing sort of, you had figured out the cost of what it would be in 1 year to feed some babies. Can you just talk a little bit about that and how there was somebody that actually donated quite a substantial amount of money and you were so surprised by
Yeah. Yeah, that was that trip when my first trip to Angola,
yeah.
and when Angelina died, and I had asked because I was just wrecked by the whole experience of it. I mean, wrecked. And I remember asking at the end of the trip, I'm like, what would make a difference? How could I make a difference? And they're like, well, the key lever here is therapeutic milk. And I was like, well, what is that? And they're like, it's a special designed formula. It's not like you can go to Infamil, or the grocery store and pop open, a jar or can of regular baby formula. This is designed, specially manufactured for severe acute malnutrition. So F F75, I think F120. Anyways, so they said I said, well, how much does it cost to do a year? And so they crunched the numbers, took a little bit of time, and they said it'll cost $100,000 to do a year of therapeutic milk for these 6 malnutrition clinics in Angola. And I just impulsively said yes. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And well, I didn't say no problem, but I said yes. And so, but I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna? And we didn't even have a website at this time. I mean, nobody knew anything about Saving Moses, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's like 8,000. That's more than $8,000 a month. How am I gonna? And my friend, she's like, that's a lot of car washes and that's a lot of bank sales. Good luck. Then my mom was like, yeah, I hope that works out for you. And my husband at the time, he was like, the church isn't going to support you on this. I'm like, ah. And so I remember I had like $8,000 for January because had agreed to it in December. I was like, okay, I'll do it for this upcoming year. And so, but in February, I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know where the money's going to, and my kids were little. They were in elementary school, and I was in the back parking lot from their school to collect them after school.
Yeah.
And somebody from the office called, and they're like, hey, have you heard of, they told me the lady's name. And I said, no, never heard of her. And they said, well, she just wrote a check. We received a check for $120,000 for Saving Moses. And I just broke down crying in the car. I mean, I was I didn't even I was speechless. And to this day, the lady that donated that money, I'm still friends with her. I actually, my mom passed away in the last month or so, and I've been talking. I call her ever so often just to be friends, just to hey, how are you doing? And I don't know how many times God has spoken to me through her, and so many. And she's just a regular person, kind of a retired, and I think she has an apartment or something somewhere in California. I don't, but again, it was just this really powerful experience. It started back then, and it's been a really pretty incredible friendship over time.
Wow, that's so special.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
something else I would love to go back to if we could, and it's your mom, Marilyn Hickey, one of the Earth's greatest preachers, female preachers. She covered the earth in the word. Just absolutely incredible. And I just know that you are a miracle because I remember hearing the story that she had shared about not being able to have a baby. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? When, she was prayed over, prophesied over that she would have a baby and she ends up having you.
These are stories that she told me, right? Because obviously I don't remember it. um,
I just want to let
she
our audience know because not everybody's they don't know a lot of the background or like some of the things that the Lord has highlighted for me. So I just thought maybe you could share, yes, about that part of your life because it's so important.
My mom wasn't able to have children, and for whatever medical condition, I don't exactly know what it was. And she and my dad prayed and wanted to have a baby, have a child. She went to like a healing meeting, and the gentleman who was doing the meeting, he basically prophesied over her and said, you want to have a baby, go home and receive your baby. But she didn't. It was about 10 years later when she finally got pregnant with me. And when she went to, from what she told me, she went to the doctor to be checked out because she thought she was pregnant. He's like, you can't be pregnant. It's impossible. But yeah, when he checked her, she was pregnant with me. So yeah, that's the story on, yeah, my birth.
Yes. Well, yes, because you are a miracle and here you are with saving Moses, working with God,
Mm,
It's just
yeah,
it's so incredible.
yeah.
So
Thank you.
incredible. So you guys would have had a lot of victories over the years, but was there any discouragements that you faced, and how did you get through those discouragements?
Yeah, I think there's been several discouragements, and even now, I think, you know, there's discouragements. Some of the discouragements sometimes can be governments that put hindrances or roadblocks, to the stuff that we want to do, babies and toddlers. Or sometimes the thing that I think maybe not even hindrances or roadblocks. I think one of the things that bugs me, I think the most is just the indifference. Like
Oh,
these are your babies and toddlers that are suffering, and governments or local authorities that are ambivalent, and they don't care. And I, yeah, I just that's hard for me. It still is hard for me. I mean, because I'll go and yeah. Anyways, I have to be careful that I don't get disrespectful because it makes me angry. It makes me
yeah.
unsettled. It's just very disturbing. So, and then I remember when I was first trying to open NightCare, and I had this grandiose vision of opening it in India, and I tried so many different times to open it, and the door was just closed, and it was frustrating. It was very disappointing, and I felt like God was like, just don't quit. Try it. If you're in the hallway and the door is locked, then try a different door. So I had a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends in Cambodia. So I talked with some of my friends there, and I'm like, hey, this is a vision that God's put in my heart, night care. And nobody, like when I would tell people about night care, they're like, nobody does that. I'm like, okay, so let's do it. It's a need. I mean, it is a legitimate need. And so my friends in Cambodia are like, yeah, we think that's great. I think you should start it here. And so God totally put that together. I ran into a woman named Anne, an accidental, she happened to be in an appointment at this with this other lady at the same time as me, and she was running her own daycare center. And I floated by her my idea of night care. She's like, "Oh, that sounds really interesting." I was like, "Yeah, I want to open that here in Cambodia and Phnom Penh." She's like, "Huh?" I said, "Well, would you be interested?" I would. And so, I mean, it's just kind of cool. And I think, I think sometimes people have the idea of if a door is closed, knock harder or beat the door down. And I think there's truth to that. Persistence, and persistence in prayer, persistence in faith. I get that. But I also think that sometimes God says, well, maybe I have a different version or a different approach or a different, try a different area, try a different situation. Because ultimately, like I opened in Cambodia, I have like a couple night care centers there now. I opened in Bangladesh, a couple night care centers in Bangladesh. And finally I went back to India and opened in India. And so, you make your way. It's like, okay, well, just keep knocking and try, and then just, and you don't quit, but you just maybe look for different opportunities, open doors, situations. So, yeah. I think it's good to have the obstacles because I think it tests your commitment, it tests your focus. Things are always easy, then we tend to not value them as much, or it's just like you don't have as much heart into it. So I think sometimes that resistance and obstacles are important for us to do things that are really incredible.
Yes, sort of like a launching point to the next level.
Yeah,
Is there a couple, I know you will have had many victories to share. Are there a couple of like moments where you felt have been just huge breakthroughs or just very exciting?
yeah, yeah. Last year I went to Cambodia and interviewed graduates from NightCare. And so we've been doing NightCare there for well over 10 years. And so if you think about it, our babies and toddlers, they go until they age out. So when they turn 6, they age out. And so I got to interview some of the graduates, probably about 4 or 6 different graduates. So they were anywhere from ages 10 to 14, somewhere in there. And interviewing them and asking them, and did the same in Bangladesh, interviewed graduates. Tell me about your life. Tell me, what do you remember about night care? And what did you do after night care? And what's happening in your family now? And I mean, so encouraging. Like in Cambodia, all of those graduates that I interviewed, none of their moms are in the industry now.
Wow.
Hmm.
That speaks volumes right there.
Yep. And they're all in school. A couple of them are like, one of them is top in her class, number one in her class. Her little brother is number three in his class. I mean, and like really competitive. There's a little guy in Bangladesh. He said, oh, no, no, no. This was in Cambodia. He said, I want to go to Angkor Wat to see my heritage as a Khmer person. And then I want to be a history teacher because I want to communicate to my people our heritage and our national pride and the impact and we are incredible people. We're a very respectable, honorable people with a deep heritage. There's a little guy in Bangladesh. He said, I asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a math teacher. Another little guy in Bangladesh, he said, I want to be the mayor of my city. I'm like, how cool. I mean, they have vision, they have dreams, they have future, they have hopes, and they're graduates from NightCare. I'm like, phenomenal, phenomenal.
Oh,
And think about it. And there's a little guy that he's not little now, but his name is Belito. And he's my poster child for malnutrition. The first time I went to Angola, I met him and he came through malnutrition. And now I think he's like 14 years old. He plays soccer and he sees me. He's like, oh no, it's her again. Because I would always say hi, hey, how's it going? And just watching him grow and flourish. And, his mom died probably about 5 years ago. But his dad's got him in school and he's doing really well. So, I mean, now that I've been doing this for, like I said, almost 15 years, and you get to follow up, and a lot of these babies and toddlers, so it's like now after some of the crisis or some of the hardship or the difficulty of where they live, the environment, their moms are sex workers, and watching them now thrive. And so one of the things we've done too with night care that I love, love, love is we've created a program, a system, a framework where they will be kindergarten ready. So
wow.
when they graduate from us, they are ready. They are completely resourced with, their fine motor skills, gross motor skills, socializing skills. I mean, we have put in so much good things into them. Trauma care, secure attachment bonding. I mean, this really, really good stuff. So, and the other thing, people don't realize this, and we're doing this as well with night care, is we're helping those babies get birth certificates
Wow.
because a lot of them, you have to have who's the dad. Well, they don't know who the dad is, and so if they don't have a birth certificate, then they're not a citizen, and if they're not a citizen, they don't have access to whatever, like any kind of public education, any kind of health systems. I mean, they're not registered. They're a non-human. And so we get to help, these babies get birth certificates and then be recognized that I'm an actual citizen of my country. And so as a citizen, I have rights to these resources or whatever. I mean, even if it's small, but if you think about it, I mean, undocumented, like how many undocumented and for these babies and toddlers, like, yeah. So I think what we do is we really aim to improve the future by
Yes,
investing today. So it's cool.
absolutely. Given the amazing work that you do, would you be able to share some of the heroes of faith that you have?
You know, I think Mother Teresa is pretty cool.
Mm,
I like her. I like her. One of her quotes I love is, "I'm a little pencil in the hand of a loving God, writing a love letter to the world." And I'm like, I just think that's incredible. I do like her a lot. I mean, I've had different influences, people who have influenced me. And I think at the core of me, I love Jesus deeply. And I guess I watch, and as I read through the Gospels, I watch him and I watch his behavior and his words and how he interacts with people. And I just find myself deeply moved by his willingness to step into human depravity
yeah,
and step in with love and grace and transformation. So I don't know. I think heroes I- yeah, I tend to not do a whole lot of like quote hero worship just because I think humans are flawed. And
absolutely.
whenever you find, ooh, this is a cool person, I'm like, yeah, until they're not.
Are they
And they
really?
have they have warts and shortfalls and they mess up. And so, I just but so I'm a little careful on that. I think when I was growing up, and yeah, you go through, and I think it's a process of maturation as you age and you become more mature. You're like, okay, yeah, they're human. Yeah, they did some cool things, but they also have weak spots of just like every single human on the planet. So I'm a little careful. Even Mother Teresa, I heard she was a pretty cranky lady. She would get cranky and mean and like,
Yes.
and I don't know why she wouldn't, she's advocating, she's on the front lines, advocating for very, very desperate populations around the world. So
Yes.
I'm a little, if I had to pick somebody to be a hero, I think I'd just pick Jesus.
I love that so much. Just cut out all the flesh and go straight for the Spirit of God.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if just that coercion piece that the women and the kids, even though the babies wouldn't realize that they're dealing with so much coercion.
Those babies and toddlers, when there isn't night care, um, you know, it's a variety of things that happen to them. They get left with a neighbor, they get kept under the bed, they get drugged. Some of them get drugged and put under the bed while mom is working, so they don't interrupt the mom's work, or the client isn't, whatever. So I mean, those babies and toddlers, it's not, it's interesting because it depends on the country. It's not one size fits all, and that industry, um, it's very much an evolving industry, but it also evolves and changes based on technology, based on situations, circumstances. Like during COVID, I mean, we weren't able to operate night care the same way that we did. But I guarantee you, sex work didn't stop just because COVID happened. I mean, so, but when there is no night care, those babies and toddlers, whether it's a neighbor that's looking after them, or an auntie that's looking after them, which most of the time is not a safe at all, not a safe option. They're vulnerable to predators and pedophiles. They don't have care and attention. Yeah, it's a pretty ugly, and I think in America we think, well, these moms just need to make different choices. They just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and go get a different job. And I guess I want to push into that a little bit because I just want to think for a second, ask the audience to consider, What what woman dreams up as their ideal job from their 10, 12-year-old childhood that I want to have sex with at least 4 to 8 different men every single night, and this is, I want to grow up and this is what the life I want to live. There's not, we don't think that way. Like, that's not a dream job, and so if they could have a different profession, they most of the time would. They
Yes.
can't read, they can't write. The unemployment in their places are so high. It's not like they could leave and, like, oh, pop down the street and be a cleaner or whatever. It just doesn't work that way. So these women are in the industry, and then, when they have a baby, then they love their baby and they want to take care of their baby. And how are they going to do that if they don't have an income? So if this is the way they earn a living, then what they'll do whatever they have to do to take care of their baby or toddler. So it's just, it's we can look from a distance and be like, oh, well, this is just, it's an easy button. It is not an easy button. It's not at all an easy button. And in the meantime, it's the babies and toddlers. And you have a baby or a toddler that grows up in this industry, and that's their worldview. So that's what and you see that. You see this generational thing that happens with sex workers where, and and I saw this firsthand, and this was very disturbing to me. I remember I interviewed, they told me about this teenager who was a sex worker. And at first they told me she was like 18. And then as they kept telling me about her, then her age dropped. She was like 16. And then when I went to interview her, she was at her home with her mom, and she's 14. And she's sitting there talking with me, and her little boy, who's, I don't know, 9 months old or whatever, he's on the floor sleeping, taking a nap. And I'm interviewing this new mom, this teenage mom, and I'm asking her, hey, and she's not giving me any answers. I mean, she's very clipped, one word, kind of, you could tell she's like very concise and very shielded on what she was saying. And she kept looking over her shoulder. And her mom was over her shoulder, and her mom had, like, I don't know how many kids, 6 kids or something. And her mom, I figured the light went on for me. I was like, in the interview, I was like, the mom is shopping her daughter.
Wow.
And that's why this 14-year-old isn't saying anything, because her mom is standing here controlling and censoring everything she's saying.
Yeah.
And so then the light turned on. I was like, so it's a generational. And if you go to some of these, like, big historical long-standing brothels, you'll see that the individuals who have the highest earning potential are girls between the age of 11 to 18. They have the highest earning potential. And then the second highest is anybody from age 18 to 30. And the people who earn the least would be the grandmothers. So the grandmothers live off of the daughters, who live off of the granddaughters.
Unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah. So again, this is that industry. And again, like, let's just start with a baby and a toddler and have love and compassion in our hearts, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of organizations that work in the industry, and for good things, really good things, but nobody's looking after the babies and the toddlers. But it's a natural consequence of that industry. So yeah.
Incredible. So your focus is night care, the malnutrition, and what's
And
the
birth aid.
birth?
Birth aid. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We provide birth support, be that training, kits, education, for moms who are pregnant.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So, would you mind just sharing with our audience where people can go on like social media, website, and that would be very helpful.
We have a website, savingmoses.org. We're on all social media, so Instagram, Facebook, I think we're on X, no longer Twitter. Oh, and we have a YouTube channel, and I have a YouTube podcast. And so there's a lot of stuff on the YouTube channel Saving Moses on YouTube, and I'm doing now a podcast. So we try to upload episodes every week. I'm getting a little bit better at being consistent on that. But the other thing that's really cool too is every year now we're starting to do a team trip again. So we go to Cambodia and take 10 people plus or minus with us to Cambodia to participate in night care. So that's exciting too. But it's kind of like you have to sign up for it and go through some process, application stuff. But that's really cool. And we used to do that pre-COVID. We did it every year, and we would have anywhere from 40 to 60% repeat travelers because they loved it so much. Such an incredible experience. So those are some cool ways to connect with Saving Moses.
Incredible.
Oh, and you can pick up my book on Amazon.
Oh,
So if you look
yes.
for Hanging by a Thread, and then my new book that's coming out in the fall is The First Five, and that's my second book for Saving Moses. That one is really cool too. It's got great pictures and tells a story, and it's really, really good. Love that book. The first 5 years of a person's life.
Oh, wow. Okay. That will be loaded with resourceful information.
Very compelling and interesting, because and I think inspirational too. Like people, when I wrote it, I was like, I want an average person to read this and not feel like they're just inundated with information, but be inspired. And incredible. There's sections called iconic individuals. Oh my gosh, I loved writing those because there are people that I've met that you just don't know, and they are unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. So inspiring and so incredible. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it.
I love that. So we'll have to watch for your book. And I
Yeah.
do watch your YouTube channel. Absolutely love it. And I learn so much from it. Thank you for doing that and putting all that information out there. And I just want to encourage anybody listening, go to Sarah's website, Saving Moses. And if you feel at all like you're being prompted to donate or sow a seed into Saving Moses, I just want to encourage you to do that. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being on this podcast. I feel so excited, privileged, and honored really to be with you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessa. So great to hang out. Thank you for the privilege and opportunity. I appreciate it.
Wow. Is there anything else before we close that you do want to add?
No, I think I covered everything.
Okay. Would you mind closing us in prayer?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
So, Father, I thank you for your goodness to us. I thank you, Father, that you're kind and you're loving. I thank you, Father, that your loving kindness endures forever. I pray for each person who's watching, listening, that you would encourage them in their hearts with your love and your compassion for them as well as through them. Thank you for this time with Jessa. I thank you for the opportunity and privilege to get to express your love in our lives, through our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Wow. Well, thank you, everybody.